Well, let's get to said rumors. And Patrick, you are the resident official word. There's nothing official about the idea of Tony Finau going to LIV Golf, right? This is the idea that he has not been tied up with TGL. He is not playing at the Hero World Challenge. It does not seem like he is going to play the Century. He's buddies with Jon Rahm. Am I missing any of the other puzzle pieces that might go into Tony headed to the other circuit?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, he's a guy who's been in discussions with LIV for pretty much the whole time, just hasn't put pen to paper. And you look at who his friends are, like you mentioned, Jon Rahm, Brooks Koepka is a good friend of his as well. I know their wives are buddies. So I think the big domino that needs to fall for Tony Finau is if he pulls out of the Grant Thornton Invitational with Nelly Korda, then I think it's safe to say that he's good as gone. But he has yet to do that, so he still has I believe that's technically like a PGA Tour exhibition thing. So he's still technically got one string attached.
Is it just that time of year, Jason? You know, the agreement, so to speak, whether we are slowly moving towards the PIF and the PGA Tour getting together. Are we still worried about guys leaving the PGA Tour to go to LIV? Is LIV still actively recruiting, or is this just kind of we've got nothing else to do in December?
See, Rick, I think that's the bigger puzzle piece to all this. Isn't just who are the names and who might leave for LIV this time of year. It's, hey, we've been having ongoing negotiations. We have a framework agreement. We're playing in pro-ams together. We're getting together in all these different places, and yet LIV still feels like they're trying to pull some players away from the PGA Tour. Maybe it's a leverage play. Maybe it's just, hey, in case this falls through, we want to get the best players we can get. But I think it's very interesting the fact that we keep hearing about some deal that's maybe in place, going to be in place, possibly, but LIV is still moving forward as if business as usual, and we're still going to try to take players away. And whether it's Tony Finau or a couple of other names that have been floated out there, the bigger names they take, the worse it is for the PGA Tour. And I think this week's Hero World Challenge, to me, this is a great representation of what's happened in golf over the last 3 years, because I've covered this event in the past in the Bahamas, and it used to be 20 of the top 27, 28, 29 players in the world. You look at that list now, and I know Rory doesn't usually go. Xander's not there this year. Hovland's not there. He's won in the past. Colin Morikawa's not there this year. All of a sudden, it's Scotty Scheffler, and it's pretty good. And no offense to those players who are playing this week, but it looks very watered down. And you come to think of it, and that's just what the PGA Tour product is these days. There's not a whole lot of superstars left. And if LIV keeps stealing them away, boy, the cupboard's getting bare as we speak by the day.
Just 3 of the top 10 players in the world teeing it up at the Hero World Challenge this week. Had to go pretty deep to get to this field of 20. Greg, when you hear all of these rumors swirling, you wonder, what types of things are being said to Tony Finau. He's clearly not the linchpin that I think Jon Rahm thought he was a year ago, but Jason's right. When you just slowly kind of, fill up the ammo with a bunch of superstars and stars, and it makes your competitive product worse. It takes a big toll.
It's one of those things that if it turns out to be true, it certainly hurts the PGA Tour. I'm not sure it really helps LIV, which is kind of just a sad truth, because Tony Finau doesn't have much major championship status. He may have his official world golf rankings for this year, but we know how quickly that can go away. And all of a sudden, Tony Finau's on a path, if he decides to go, and if the rumors are true, he's on a path to essentially disappearing from mainstream golf. He doesn't have the exemptions like Bryson and Brooks have, and even Dustin Johnson and Cam Smith. He doesn't have those kind of exemptions, those pathways into major championships, and that could really hurt Tony Finau. Of course, there's a big reward for that. He'll be compensated for that, I would imagine, and perhaps there's a chance that this all turns out to be nothing. But, I wonder a couple things. One, what is the situation of the lawsuit with Tony Finau? Does that play a role in this? And, another really important aspect, I think the last piece of the puzzle that we haven't answered is there hasn't been any answer from Tony Finau, unless I've missed something. This is a pretty easy one to squash. If these are just rumors that we're talking about because it's December and he's not playing in the Hero World Challenge and he's not signed up, not in the Century, those are pretty easy rumors to squash if you're Tony Finau, and he hasn't. And this is just the world we live in now. I mean, that's a big puzzle piece.
Let me try to.
Well, Greg, I'm not sure if you're on the. I don't know if Greg's on the TikTok, but Tony Finau's wife has a large presence there, and she took a fun little video of a headline saying "Rumors of Tony Finau to LIV Golf," and put a fun little sound over it, and was just like, and brushed it off a little bit. So that's the best you're getting from the Finau team right now at this moment. I don't know what that means. It just adds a little more question.
Speaking of rumors, Greg, are you on TikTok?
No. You could look for me, but you're not going to find me.
Yeah, that was that. Yeah, the people needed to know that. I'm glad we covered that. Well, I think that to tie this back a little bit to the Tiger presser this morning, Jason, of course, Tiger was asked not only about his health, which we'll get to, but he was asked about the ongoing discussions with PIF. And Tiger said, quote, "I think something will get done. In what form or shape, I don't know yet." End quote. That doesn't leave me super confident about anything being imminent. It does not feel like we are at the 1 yard line, despite being a couple of years into this.
Yeah, Rick, we do a segment on my PGA Tour radio show, Hitting the Green, every week called Press Conference Interpretations. And if I was to interpret Tiger's words there, I would say that he is almost cautiously pessimistic, that this does not sound like the guy who thinks there's going to be a deal done. Now, look, Tiger has always played things close to the vest, whether it's when are you going to return from an injury or what's going on with this or that. Tiger's never going to give up more information than he has to. That said, this does not seem like some sort of deal is imminent. We're going on a year and a half now since this framework agreement was put together, and it doesn't feel like we're any closer. I get it. The Department of Justice is going to have a big say in this. The Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia obviously has a big say in what they want to do. And if they can keep pulling players away, they might not want to make a deal with the PGA Tour. If they're going to say, hey, we can pull 3 more superstar players away from the PGA Tour every single year, why are we going to make a deal with the guys that are losing their players annually? So I think there's a lot of moving parts to this. But boy, Tiger did not sound optimistic for this thing to get done anytime soon.
I'm glad Jason brought that up, Patrick, because I think that there is a lot of confidence on both sides of this. I'm not sure it's warranted on either side, but I could see the LIV side saying what Jason just did, which is, hey, we're grabbing 2 or 3 of your guys every year. We've got Bryson, the superstar, who's making inroads with, a bunch of young fans. We've got an endless amount. We can wait this out. And then you've got the PGA Tour saying, well, your 4-year contracts are coming up here shortly. Maybe we'll wait this out and see what happens. And it feels like there's not much incentive outside of now getting these lawsuits dropped to really do anything of note.
I would agree with you until that Bloomberg article this past week came out where they stated that the DP World Tour and the Saudi Public Investment Fund might make a deal outside of the current negotiations. And if you're the DP World Tour, why wouldn't you take that? I know you have the strategic partnership that goes through, I think, 2036, where the PGA Tour is subsidizing some of their prize funds and they're growing year over year for the next 5 years and everything else that's involved there. But it seems like a no-brainer for both of those leagues to join forces, because if you're LIV, the one bugaboo you have going right now is you have no access to OWGR points. You have Bryson DeChambeau, who before his US Open win was outside the top 100. Guys are plummeting. And so if you create a pathway between LIV and the DP World Tour, which they've done, although it's come at monetary cost with guys paying fines for every non-sanctioned event they play in, then it seems like a slam dunk to me. And that would put the PGA Tour in a pretty precarious position where they can poach these guys. And if they're willing and able to play all around the world and probably more than the typical PGA Tour schedule, even though originally a lot of these guys didn't want to play as much, then they're going to be in a great spot. Like Patrick Reed could be back inside the top 50 before we know it. Guys like that. And so I think that would put the PGA Tour in a bad spot and probably has them on the edge of their seat right now.